Thank you. Good morning. I've sprinkled around the tables an outline of what I'll be speaking on. I'll look at it through, see if I can stay on topic a little bit. I've been involved in procurement for, I figured it up this morning, 32 years. So I've worked for International Paper Company, Hammermill Paper Company. I bought logs to make lumber for a great sawmill in Bibb County. Now I'm a pole buyer. When I first became a timber buyer, I was under the impression that many of you may be, to be a pole, it had to be long leaf. They all grew in South Alabama. They did a long leaf or slash, and all I thought it was crooked. When I was working for International Paper, I was in Central Alabama, where I am now. We had responsibility for supplying poles to the Wiggins Mill, which is south of Hattiesburg, Mississippi. So I had some pole markers come over from Mississippi and give us a quick education, and we found out that liability will grow straight. And that's what I want to talk to you about. It's one thing I've learned in this business in 30 years. If you listen to us experts, whether we be in industry, government, or whatever, probably the best thing you can do is pay real careful attention and go 180 degrees in the opposite direction. But for if you're growing pine timber right now, I'll try to tell you what to do. You can't force a tree to be a pole, but you can select the trees that will become poles. The good thing about tree genetics and forest improvement, what the people that are growing our superior ceilings are doing, they're actually, the genetics that they use, the characteristics that they're promoting for timber production is exactly what we're looking for a pole. That you want it straight, you want it tall, you want it well pruned, you want perpendicular limb angles, and you want small limbs. That's a pole. Number one thing we're looking for, they have got to be straight. So that's what we're looking for. The one thing besides genetics that really improves the quality of timber, quality of people, quality of everything is competition. There's been a tendency in the past in forestry, I think we're starting to get away from it a little bit. Back in the 80s and 90s, we were trying to thin plantations when they were 12 years old, pack diameter on as fast as we can, and basically grow a stack of knots. We don't want that for poles, and we're finding out that the sawmill don't want it for lumber either. So say you have a 5-year-old plantation, a 10-year-old plantation, a 15-year-old pine plantation. What do I do? First thing you do is you get a good job. When you thin the first time, you get it done right. The trees need to be tall enough. You need to get enough crown closure. So before your first thinning, you're starting to get some pruning. Usually that happens when the crowns grow together. You get some shading, get the underbrush off the ground. You'll notice the lower limbs on the tree begin to die and fall off. That's what you need before you do anything whatsoever. So we're getting a little bit retro now with thin, 15 to 18 years old. You thin roughly, I like to see fifth row thinning, and then fifth row haul out rows, and then thin between the rows just to promote the growth of the residual stand. And you really can't pick out the trees that are going to make poles at age 15. It would not be practical to do it, but just get a good job. And at the time of your first thinning, I'll say this, and I've seen it many times, and I think many of you would agree. So that thinning, the quality of the work is more important than the revenue from that harvest. So that's what I would look for. When you do your second thinning, which will be probably in the early 20s, at that point you should be able to decide what trees will be your poles. They will have good form. They will show with pruning, and they will show straightness. They're not big enough to be poles yet, but the thing you do not want to do is take a tree that has potential of being a pole and kill it. And the reason you don't is because a few years down the road, if you take two trees, say 13 inches in diameter, at DBH, 45 feet tall, one on the right is crooked, the one on the left is straight, well pruned, has pole characteristics. The one on the left is worth 3 times what the one is on the right. That's why when you make before second thinning, it will pay you to determine what your crop trees are, especially if you have poles. I see this being done by TMOs, REITs, paper companies, insurance companies. They're all doing it, and you can do it with $5 fine. It will pay you to do it. So you favor form and straightness over dynamic. You don't want to leave a tree that's not going to survive because it's just too small to suppress. But at the same time, there's no need in leaving a fat, crooked tree when you can sell it to chipping saw in your second thinning and grow that slightly smaller, better looking tree to be a pole. And trees don't get straighter with age. Logging scars don't heal. Cat faces don't heal. So you can identify the trees that will be poles at about age 18 to 20, 24. And you have to, even though you can grow saw timber in 20 years, you can't meet pole specifications in 20 years. They have density requirements. They have to prune the limit. Non-indicators are okay, knots aren't. So you have to wait until they're big enough and dense enough to sell to timber. So without going into a lot of detail, the lower half of the tree should be clear of knots. Like I said, not indicators, which is I think it's a little scar you can see in the bark where the limb used to be. That's okay. The wood actually heals quicker than the bark. But you don't want to see the branch stub or the little rotten piece of the limb in the lower half of the tree. Most of the poles you see on the side of the road are at least 40 feet tall. They're class 440s or class 340s. And it looks sort of small. The thing you've got to realize is the bark's been peeled off the tree. You're driving 80 miles an hour and you look at it, and 6 feet of that tree is in the ground. So they're bigger than they look. We need at least 13 inches DBH. It needs to be at least 40 feet tall to a 7-inch top. Now, say they need to be at least 25 years old, because when a pole inspector comes to our plant, they measure the density. Rings per inch matters. You need at least 6 rings per inch in the outer inch. You can get by with a little less than that if it's 50% summer tool. So, I got a comment on the outline because on so many tables, almost isn't good enough. We get a lot of wood from people say, well, it's 12.8 inches. That's close enough. Well, it may be close enough to you. The light, it looks beautiful, but that pole inspector from the utility or from United Arab Emirates or China or wherever we're selling gold, they don't care if it's close enough. They're looking for an excuse not to buy it. So we all have to satisfy our market. So I'm telling you, you can grow them good, and I'm telling you can grow them relatively fast. But these specs really do matter. And I would say that's something we need to consider in our business, because we all need to look at our customers. We don't know what we're going to be doing. If all of you and everybody in Alabama starts growing poles tomorrow, down the road they won't be worth quite as much money. So, we pay for them so well because they're rare. It's just like, diamonds are worth more than dirt. That's one of the big principles behind poles. But there again, if you do all grow them, they have quality, they're still more valuable than chipping saw. We've all seen, or a lot of you have seen, that nobody wants a 28-inch tree anymore. They want the little 12-inch dense tree. So who knows how that's going to affect the pole business. What I'm really saying to you, I guess, is grow quality in all your products. You can grow them fast, but just look for straightness, and you'll get it. I've talked to a few of you out in the hall that I know that were under the same impression that I was when I first got into procurement, that there are no loblolly poles in central Alabama. I mark poles in Illinois. So didn't even know there was any loblolly out there. There's some on Shawnee National Forest, and they might be on the side of the road in Alabama now. We peeled and treated in Briarfield. We buy poles from North Carolina, we buy poles from Arkansas. We sure go anywhere in Alabama. There's several pole companies in Alabama. So if you grow trees and you've got good poles, we will find them. I get calls every day from various wood dealers. Say, okay, do you know about such and such timber sale? What do you think about the poles? Or I will hear about somebody selling good pole timber 100 miles away from our mill. I will hear about it because 5 or 6 wood dealers are out there competing for it, wanting to know if we want the wood. The answer is yes, always. The same thing goes for our competitors, and whether they be in Florida, South Alabama, South Mississippi, South Georgia. We want the wood. If you grow it, we will get it. So, it surprises you how much all of us in the business know about what you have for sale when you put it up for sale. And you may have sold timber and got paid for poles that didn't even know you got paid for them. If you've got enough people looking at timber that know what they're doing, and you grow poles, you will get paid for poles. And it's substantial. I told somebody I have seen and of course this was in 2007 when we were in a little bit different world than we are now financially. I have seen a 300-acre, 28-year-old plantation that was roughly 55–60% poles sold for $1.5 million. That's pretty good then. It probably would have been bumping $1 million now. So that's why it will pay you, I think, to grow poles. And a lot of will do it. Of course, if you got long leaf, great. Tell me where it is, we're going to get it. One thing about I would like to say on marketing your poles, the price just depends on how far you are from the mill. It's like any commodity, it's a trucking contest. Whoever's closest should be able to pay as much. Lighting conditions are important. I'm sure many of you found out when it's wet and sloppy, your timber's on the side of the big gravel county road, you'll get paid more. When you're managing your land, if you will develop a good road network where we can get access, it will pay you. We can't get a 65-foot log trailer around the hairpin curve of the road either. So that's something to think about. If you like, and I'm sure all of you have various reasons for owning property, you get a lot of use from your land. If you want to tell us, this timber has been in my land forever, I want lots and lots of money for it, but you cannot cut it during deer season or during turkey season. That may cost you. It's just, I realize you have different reasons for owning land, and I appreciate that, and I can understand it. That's just something to think about. The easier it is for us or anybody else to cut your timber, the more we can pay you for it. If nothing else, because our logging rates are a little bit lower. And one thing I say at the end of my outline, support our loggers. I have a feeling, and several other people did, by the end of this summer, we're going to see, if for no other reason, there will be more mills coming online for different products. I think the economy will be a little better, a lot of people do. So the demand for wood is going up. In the last 2 years, we've lost almost half the loggers in Alabama. They've been squeezed by fuel costs. They've been squeezed by those of us who buy timber who want it as cheap as we can get. Those of you who sell timber who want more and more for the timber. So the loggers have borne the brunt of a lot of this. A lot of them have gone out of business. I've got a hunch sometime this summer there's going to be a bunch of us wanting to know why we can't wood our mills, and it's because we don't have anybody to cut the timber. So I don't know what any of you can do individually, but bear that in mind when you know a log, when you're dealing with loggers, or if your bank was a few $1 million and you want to throw at somebody to see how fast they can burn through it, put them in the logging business. But I guess I think I've covered everything I wanted to say about this business. Could I answer questions for you? Sure.
Do you have any recommendations on planting densities for longleaf especially?
Good question, because I think there is some research and opinions and cost sharing that's got you on some fairly wide 12 by 12 spacing. We plant just like we do like 8 by 8 because competition and longleaf is very good about establishing dominance too. So you've got, and it doesn't prune quite as quickly as longleaf, though it has good form. So I would stick with a good dense planting pattern on anything.